In the almost 4 years the Switch has been available, racing games have advanced a lot. We've gotten a lot of quality games, from Grid Autosport and Burnout Paradise to Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. But before going on, let's go back. There's an updated version of a previous racing game for the Switch, something that kinda surprised me. Gear Club Unlimited 2 got an updated or expanded release, though it is a little confusing. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Here is my review of Gear Club Unlimited 2 Tracks Edition for the Nintendo Switch. As with the original release, this is a racing simulation game, and it's worth noting that Gear Club Unlimited 2 has received quite a few updates since the original release. We now have the full online multiplayer available, split screen, and some quality of life balancing. The best of which being a complete fix for the input lag of the original release. Now when you're going through races, you don't have to have that little delay and adjustment when you're going through and trying to do turns. Now let's talk about what exactly Tracks Edition is. If you browse around the eShop and look for Tracks Edition, you're not going to find anything that says that. That's because this is basically an all DLC built-in edition that is exclusive to the retail market. They did add quite a few new things, but if you don't go the retail route, you don't go to a Tracks Edition page, you go to the normal edition page and buy the DLC. To give an example, there was a new campaign and race type mode added in Tracks Edition, and this DLC pack you're looking at right here is all of that content. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that they wouldn't even put a bundle up on the store so you could buy it and dub it as Tracks Edition, since that is what they're marketing this new update as. But they didn't, so if you're confused about it or can't find it on the eShop, that would be why. Speaking of all of this new content, let's dive into it. We've got 4 new cars in this expansion, including the Ford GT40 Mark I that raced in the Le Mans race back in 1968 and 69. And that Le Mans event is really the center point of this DLC. You've got the GT40 Mark I that I just mentioned, and the new campaign mode, which is called Endurance Mode, is all around that track. Outside of needing to beat it to unlock the GT40, Endurance Mode is a really interesting, different sort of campaign. It's all about really long races, as the 24 hours at Le Mans would suggest, and they added a bunch of new realism modes to the driving itself. In the real 24 hours at Le Mans, you have to worry about tire wear and fuel because you're driving for so long. In an endurance mode, you also have to worry about it, being able to select different kinds of tires and adjust what you start out with regarding fuel. The events in endurance mode, just like the rest of the game's campaign, is also set into classes, so you have a limited selection of what vehicles can take a part in what events. It's also worth noting that all of the new cars are not set in the same dealerships on the map. You actually have to hunt around the map to be able to find all of them and either know what you're looking for or have a list next to you so you can see what's new and what isn't. Now, if you're a newbie to Gear Club Unlimited 2, I'll give you a quick rundown of the game. The campaign mode has this big map of different types of events, all set up in different classes for different vehicles and vehicle types. Your goal is to win races to earn money, which you can use for new vehicles and upgrades to previous vehicles. Though the amount of money you get in for these races, as I mentioned in my original review of Gear Club Unlimited 2, is so small that it makes the game a really big grind, and unfortunately Tracks Edition does not solve that. If you want to buy any of that new stuff or anything on the higher end, you're going to be racing for a long time. And of course, one of the unique things about this game is the customizable garage, where you can move around cars and cosmetics, as well as going into doing some customization for your vehicles, including a vinyl graphic editor. But getting back to the DLC, the expansion content didn't really change how the main game is played, though one thing I did notice when I was playing it this past week was the slipperiness of the traction on asphalt. Maybe it was like this before and I just didn't notice, but it just feels very slippery when going around a turn, and especially when using the e-brake. The one thing I will say is that Tracks Edition is a great deal for the price. The base game did have a lot of content to its campaign mode, but this just adds onto it and makes it even more. It's also worth noting that the retail edition specifically is a better deal. You're paying $50 there for the base game and all of the DLC, with Endurance Mode by itself on the eShop being a good $15 with the base game at $40. I already talked about how the input lag is no longer here, so let's dive into presentation, which does look slightly different. When you have it in docked mode, it still looks pretty, though handheld mode feels like the environments are a little blurrier and more washy than they were before. And when it comes to performance, unfortunately the long load times and stuttering between loading screens is still here. Though that's all I have to say about performance, and because Gear Club Unlimited 2 released before the Nintendo Switch Lite and V2 model came out, I have new battery readings for you. On the original model, Gear Club Unlimited 2 has a battery range of 3 hours and 1 minute up to 3 hours and 56 minutes. On the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a range of 3 hours and 5 minutes up to 4 hours and 16 minutes. And on the Redboxer V2 2019 model, it has a range of 3 hours and 58 minutes up to 5 hours and 6 minutes. In conclusion, Tracks Edition is a very strange release that seems to only be bundled via the retail copy. But regardless, the realism added to the endurance mode is a great change, and the updates to the game have definitely improved it. While it's still a grind fast and oddly looks worse in handheld mode than it did before, with the input lag problem gone, it is a much better racer than it was. Reviews to go rates Gear Club Unlimited 2 Tracks Edition for the Nintendo Switch a 7.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.